Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast. I'm Daniel Torres, and I'm live today, actually from London today, where I'm lucky to be here, meeting some of our industry friends this week and going to a couple of events. But very excited that in a couple of weeks, and everybody's telling me lately you're traveling a lot, and I have to say this year it's true, but I'm very excited that I'll be visiting Germany, which back in the day was like the number one country I visited the most when I was doing headhunting. I was there very often. It was definitely a country I was visiting more, but these days I don't get to go there often. But I'll be in Dusseldorf, where we're gonna have a very important gathering of the retail media community in Europe for STRATACACHE's What's in Store event, which is an event that I've actually gone to see twice in New York before in RF. It's a great way to kick off the year there. We did it in London as well last year. I was also lucky enough to present a panel with Stonegate and a gym chain from the Netherlands, which I don't remember the name now. But it was Basic Fit, exactly. Thanks. And as you can hear, I'm not the only person in the room, in the virtual room today, because I'm accompanied by two of the, as the marketing manager put it, two of the best of retail media, probably. It's two executives from STRATACACHE. And one side we have Tijmen Willems, who's the VP Retail Media EMEA. Hi, Tijmen, how are you?
Hey, Daniel.
Excited to see you. I've seen you in Cannes, I've seen you in New York, in Barcelona, but we're collecting countries as we go.
Yeah, and hopefully you're not gonna tell the story again how we first met, because that's gonna be a bit awkward. Maybe we save it for later.
In-person. That's an in-person event. That's just like the type of thing that we say here to put out so that people want to come to meet us in person and they will come to us to ask. Come on, Tijmen. I've only explained it like 50 times or something. Like it's not even that many times. But on the other side, I have somebody that's actually a repeat guest on the podcast. She actually came on the show practically exactly a year ago. I'll have to give you, my friends, the CPG guys, they have a jacket they give to the people that come 5 times to their show. Maybe I have to think of something similar. It's Alison Dunham, who's the VP Retail Media Monetization UK. Hi, Alison. Welcome again.
Hi, Daniel. As always, a pleasure to see you. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. Good to be in your country, although in the opposite side of it, I think.
Yes, you're not in the best part. You're not in Leeds, unfortunately, but at least you're in the UK. But Daniel, I can't believe it's been a year since I was first on this podcast with you. So wow, time certainly flies, doesn't it?
Yeah. Actually, I was curious to, like, if I asked you a year ago where we were in retail media, where are we now?
Oh God, what a question. So I definitely would say I've seen a shift of a broader channel expansion. And this really marks a shift from when online retail really dominated retail media. And finally, we are moving to that omni-channel approach we've been talking about for a while now. So it is becoming a reality. And I'm going to say this with a smile on my face. Definitely in-store is one of those channel expansions where we are seeing that shift of retail media. That is definitely a shift I've seen. Now, this one might be a little controversial, but I keep hearing and reading about full funnel budgets being allocated to retail media. And I say controversial because, Daniel, I'm actually not seeing too much of this yet. So that's one to watch. And I would say another super interesting shift this year is how the brands have ramped up the usage of social platforms to extend reach beyond the retailer's ecosystem to sell their brands directly. So I'd say those are 3 big shifts I've seen in a year.
Interesting. Do you think, Tijmen, from what Alison's saying, are you seeing similar things, also taking into
Hmm.
consideration that you're physically and probably business-wise also a lot in mainland Europe?
Yeah, 100%. And what we also see is that you see the shift from we have this great retail media network, hey partners, come and buy with us. Yeah, there are so many retail media networks these days that you really need to stand out, right? So what you see more and more is that retail media networks, they want to differentiate, right? They need to step up the game with measurement, improve uh, with hard metrics. So when we talk, for example, about measurement, it's going from a nice to have to a must have. That's what I see now happening in different countries in Europe.
Yeah. I think it's like, you remember when FMCG brands were starting to do e-commerce, where it was just about being listed and just having like a bit of like the route to market, but more basic one. And now it's all got very complex with digital shelf, etc., paid, organic, etc. I think we're seeing like something very similar happening for retail media networks now.
Yeah,
A year
absolutely.
and a half ago, it was like, okay, it's just a way for retailers to make more money, basically. And now I think that the conversation, at least, is not that one at all. It's like, how can retailers prove that brands investing there will make a good investment, and how can they make it work? Even like this, some retailers that we all know are under pressure.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. How it's for me, I always describe it as years ago. Brands have been buying into retailers' media assets for years and years, and it probably wasn't called retail media then. But it was very transactional because the retailers realised it was just a revenue stream into the business. It is now very much a data-led industry, and data is leading it. There's still the revenue opportunity, but it's very much a data-led industry. That's a big change I've seen.
Yeah. So let's talk about what we'll be seeing on the 23rd in Dusseldorf. What are you guys looking forward to, Time? And what are you looking forward to?
Ooh, to see a lot of old friends and make new friends. But most of all, when we look at the agenda, honest and practical conversations. What I'm really looking forward to is we have a gentleman, Dirk Haan, who's from Swatch Media. He's going to talk about what measurement matters, right? Because you have measurement and you have measurement, right? But what really matters in store. And you also have a gentleman that I've seen before on stage. He's called Craig McDonald. He's from McKinsey, and he's talk about AI in store. And I think is one of the topics that come by so frequently. But I trust this gentleman, and I'm really looking forward to see him talk about this topic.
And it will be mostly about in-store, right? So in-store
Yeah.
retail media. Why do you think, Alison, it's important and relevant to attend this event?
So I think Time has just given a really good example of what's in store, what to expect. So straight away, you're going to be inundated with some fantastic insights. Um, it's a it is such a good opportunity to hear insights and market forecasting from some very good influential voices in the industry. We do tend to have a great mix of industry experts attend our events on stage. It's so great to get close to their views, their opinions. I like it when the panels get a little bit spiky and sometimes you get some disagreements, which is great. We've got a great agenda with sessions on topics that matter basically for anybody building or scaling retail media. So you'll get some great practical takeaways on analytics, measurement frameworks, creative optimization, the operational side of retail media programs. And as Tijmen said, it's always great to connect with old faces, make new connections. So yeah, it's an all-round day of learning, putting your own views forward, forging new relationships and partnerships, and just being with like-minded people.
Yeah, and what I also like, because we do this event in New York, right? As you mentioned, in January. We have done it in London before. And over again, what people say is that they're not only getting a clear view and an honest view of what's happening today, but also a look into the future, right? What's happening in the next years. And I think that's very valuable for the brands and agencies and tech providers and retailers that will be visiting.
Yeah, and I think what I like about STRATACACHE events, also like the ones you do in Cannes, for example, is that it's a bit like a who is who in the industry. So you have like, yeah, like practically anyone relevant in in-store retail media is there. So
Yeah.
it's a great. I mean, I don't know. It's for me, it's like a must in my calendar to go, right. And I have to say as well, it's very well timed in terms of like time to like sit down and listen to people having a debate and sharing case studies and so on. But there's also always plenty of time and to like take a rest, have a drink. There's plenty of
Yes.
food,
Yeah.
etc. To like have those conversations that you're. So it's a nice balance. I feel like it's always nice, well paced.
Yeah.
There's always also a lot of space. So if you need to take a call, there's always somewhere to do it. So, which are things that are small, but they're important as well, right? Because we're all very busy, and it's good to have that balance of like, hey, I need to take a call. Can I take it? Yes. It's not like
Yeah.
you're out in the cold.
I think as well, Daniel, what's really worth pointing out, what we are very good at is really mixing up the content. So if you were at our event at the recent one, NRF in New York, don't think, oh, I don't need to attend the Dusseldorf one because I've listened to the content. It will be different. We have different speakers on stage. As I said, different content. So yes, don't think we're just repeating what we've already done. We are very good at mixing it up, but still making it relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no pay to play, so it's 100% really insights. There's no sponsorships or whatever.
And by the way, anyone can attend the event, and it's free for retailers, brands, and agencies. I'm including the link in the show notes. So if you want to attend 23rd of February, it's in the show notes, and it's very easy to sign up. Alison, speaking about interesting people on stage, you will be on stage.
I will.
And who will you be on? I think it's all about creative. Like, for example, that's a super, like, I think that's something when people think about retail media and in-store retail media, they think about maybe more hard stuff, but like creative, it's fascinating topic.
Yes, this topic for me, I've got a real passion about. I am not a creative person, but I just love how the importance of creative when it comes to retail media. And I don't think it's considered enough. So it's definitely an appropriate panel for me to be on. So we are going to be talking about how to make digital creative count in the aisle. I will be accompanied by Joe Hunter, Head of Brand and Category of the DeLonghi Group, and Steph Thomas, Head of Retail and Experience at the CCP. So it'd be great to really get an agency point of view alongside the brand point of view. But I do absolutely think that creative is quite often an afterthought in retail media, and I really think it should be very much pushed to the front. And I actually spoke about this yesterday with somebody else, and I'm going to say the exact words. Creative is no longer just a support mechanism. It's now the commerce engine itself. So for me, it's just, if not more, as important as the actual ad placement in driving the performance of the display ads. And I don't think that's considered enough. So, why spend so much investment, certainly with the in-store, with digital screens, why spend so much investment and time deploying screens and then you just maybe put up a TV ad or an ad that you're using for your out of home campaign? It's completely different. You need to make the creative work harder for the in-store environment. So that's what I'm really hoping to tackle with my panel at the event.
Well, you seem to be accompanied by the right people, because when we think about like in-store creative, will you be focusing especially like on what in-store screens can do for you?
I think that will definitely be a topic we need to address because, like I say, I don't think it's being taken serious enough. And this is a pure example. Again, spoke about it yesterday with somebody. So everybody loves to criticise, don't they? And you quite often see on LinkedIn plenty of photos and opinions. And now you're seeing more and more screens in stores. You're also seeing more photos and opinions on LinkedIn about what what looks good, what doesn't. And this particular example, gondola end with a digital screen, the screen is showing an ad of a mayonnaise brand. But on that gondola end, there is no mayonnaise products. So you can imagine, Daniel, the comments: waste of space, pointless, not relevant for the customer. Now, what is on that gondola end? You've got tins of tuna, tins of sweet corn. If that creative was thought about that little bit more, where you're giving a call to action or you're giving the customer a reason as to why that mayonnaise is being promoted there, it's great to mix with your tuna and your sweet corn. Find me in the condiments aisle. That would then make it relevant. So this isn't rocket science. It just needs that little bit more thought that's help going to lead the customer to that product and make it relevant. So for me, that is really easy, but it's been missed so much by creative agencies. So I really want to tackle that. And being on a panel with a creative agency, I want to get her views on it.
Yeah, totally. And I think, and I was gonna ask you, because when you think about creative, one may think like, oh, it's about doing like an amazing image or something very beautiful or whatever. But what you're talking about, I think, is a lot about relevancy, no?
Well, that's what advertising is, isn't it? That if you think about it, advertising only works when it's relevant. And now, if we've got screens going up in store, you can't put a screen against every single product. So the ad may not always be relevant next to the products where that screen is located, but it's easy to make the ad relevant. So I really strongly believe the creative just doesn't sell the story anymore. It decides what gets sold.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to know like what DeLonghi thinks about it, no? Because first
Can't
of all,
wait to hear.
I do own a DeLonghi coffee machine.
That's good to
so
know.
yeah. And they do a lot of stuff like with, I think they had, was it Brad Pitt in their ads and so on. So they've done quite a lot of being visible. So it'll be interesting to know. Also, yeah, that consumer electronics category is a very interesting one, no? For that, because there's a case also in consumer electronics to, I think, a very clear one where they could use it for both bottom of the funnel and top of the funnel.
And that's just it, isn't it? You know, there's talk now about the funnel collapsing, but then there's also talk about the brand advertising in store. So I think, yeah, it's going to be an interesting panel. I think there's a lot to discuss. And I think as a whole, the industry really needs to start looking more at how to make the creatives work better, definitely for the in-store environment.
What do you think, Tijmen, about the creative area? Because I don't know if, like, in the Netherlands, for example, they say that it's pretty advanced in terms of in-store activations and so on. It's quite best practice.
You know what I think about creative, it's key, right? It's when you talk about in-store retail media, it's about customer experience, right? You know, they really have a feeling when they go into a specific brand of store, a specific retailer. So I think the creative is super important. What I see more and more, especially if you look at LinkedIn, you see these in-store 3D creatives, right? And it's super cool. It's super. I always think with my performance glasses on, okay, what was the conversion rate? What was the sales uplift, right? What was the dwell time? Uh, but yeah, I sometimes I realize maybe I'm too biased, right? It's also about how it looks, and when it all comes together, I think it's the fine line of making really an impact.
Yeah. And it's good, by the way, that speaking of DeLonghi, that you actually have a brand that's speaking in a retail media event, because too many times I think that we see retail media events where there's the technology suppliers and the retailers, but the brand is absent. So it will be good to see, like, also, because they need to play a role in creative, because ultimately it's their ad placement, right? So it will be an interesting one. And Tijmen, you're gonna be on a panel, which I'm interested to know as well, as we talk about relevancy, which is all about programmatic in store. Well, maybe we should start with what is programmatic in store, first of all.
Yeah, you will all learn about it during the panel. No, but programmatic, it's really fascinating, right? If you look at programmatic advertising, since it was introduced, it has been a dominant factor in almost everywhere it was introduced, right? In display, in video, in connected TV, programmatic buying and selling is dominant. But when we look at retail media, online and especially in store, it's not the case, right? It's really lagging behind. Yes, you see some initiatives, really great ones, but online retail media, I listened to Pentaleap podcast recently, right? And they breaking those silos, and that's great. But when we talk about in store, I mean, there are so many other factors that playing a part. And together with Robert from the trade desk, right, from the DSP side, and together with Daniel from Publicis, the agency side, the buy side, we dive in, where are we today? Programmatic advertising in store, where are we going, and what's needed to, become where we want to go.
Yeah. And isn't it true that like programmatic could be the way in which especially smaller retailers, which don't necessarily have the share of voice with advertisers that the big retailers have, isn't that like kind of the way that they can make their retail media networks work at the end of the day?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I really believe in, I call it a network effect, right? There's so many retail media networks. If you want to, stand strong against the big ones, right? You need to combine the more specialty or niche retail media networks. Then they have the power to compete. And for that, I think programmatic and RTB can be a competitive advantage. Doesn't take away that, in store is different than online, right? If we talk about in store, it's not one on one. It's one to many. When we talk about in store, the context is super relevant, right? Where is the screen positioned? Is it when you enter the store? Is it in the aisle? Right? Where is the screen? And also people are moving, right? You're not behind your computer, you're not behind your mobile phone, focusing on the screen. No, you're moving around. So it doesn't make it easier, but it's coming already.
Yeah, totally. Because that's I think what the pushback to programmatic it normally is. Like maybe through programmatic, some ad shows up, yeah, in the fish aisle selling a banana, no? Like, uh, and that's I think the role we're into, no? That we can like refine that through tech.
Yep, yep. To refer back to Alison, what she mentioned on LinkedIn, I have seen a couple of those examples where you see an irrelevant ad somewhere in the store with your logo of the store. So yeah, you need to be very careful and have the right measurements in place.
I think with that though, you could argue if that retailer, so going back to your example, Daniel, of the fish aisle advertising a banana, you could argue if bananas are sold in that retailer, they've got every right to advertise that product. And again, it goes back to that creative. It may look really strange that you've got bananas being advertised in the fish aisle, but if that creative is directing you to where you can find the banana, it doesn't look so out of place and it doesn't look so odd.
Sometimes the obvious is not the best way to go, right?
Yeah.
Because now that you're saying it, it's super relevant. Like I could
Yeah.
perfectly buy. I mean, as I'm thinking of my shopping patterns in the supermarket, and it does make a lot of sense because it's the typical thing that you forget to buy the
Yeah.
bananas, right?
You might
So
want to make a banoffee pie after eating your fish pie.
exactly. A fish for dinner, and then in the morning a banana split. Why not, right?
Yeah. Why not?
And by the way, we recently, speaking of screens, we recently hosted Adam Smith from Iceland on the podcast. People may be wondering, where's this episode? It's actually not come out yet. But he was raving about the STRATACACHE screens that they've just rolled out. And I suspect, Alison, that you have something to do with that?
Yes, that's right. So we are partnering with Iceland and deploying their in-store digital screen network, which is fantastic. And it's great that Iceland are leading the way because not only is this about deploying screens in store, it's not just a digital signage network. They are also working with another one of our sister companies within the STRATACACHE group, Walkbase. And Walkbase, for those who aren't familiar with, are our data analytics and measurement company. So through the use of amazing technology, sensors. Not only can we deploy screens for Iceland, not only can we serve the ads, but we can now also measure and understand that customer behavior in store through the use of walk-based sensors. So very exciting.
Yeah, and then I think some people forget like how much you can actually measure in store. Actually, Ben Reynolds was on the podcast last year as well, and he was talking about all the capabilities that Walk-Base has. I'll add the episode to the show notes because it is pretty enlightening actually.
It's great, and I think it's what the industry has been crying out for. So I've been connected now to retail media for 15 years, and that was selling media assets for a retailer from sofa to store. Probably wasn't really known as retail media then, but by the by, we were selling media in store and online and magazines and social. The difficulty we had with those campaigns is that you just did not know what was happening in store. Yes, you know the customers walked in and you know they've walked out. They've walked out because you've got their transaction data, you've got a little bit of their credit card data, but you didn't know how to influence their behavior in store. You didn't know what they were looking at. Did they buy it? Didn't they buy it? We refer to this quite a lot for the old dinosaurs who've worked in this space a long time. It's a big black box. And compared to online, you could very easily tell your brands how your campaign measured. Who clicked on, who saw the ads, like who clicked on, did they buy, did they put the product in the basket, did they leave it in the basket, did they end up buying it? You couldn't do that within store. So now with the robust technology that is coming our way through walk-based sensors, we can, in a very privacy by design manner, now give the brand and the retailer real insights into how their stores are being shopped. So a retailer can use that data from their own perspective. So are we merchandising in the correct aisles? Are we using the right space within our stores? And then when it comes to the advertising point of view, we can then give those online media capabilities to the in-store, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting closer to closing that loop, no? Because that's kind of the dream that you can do a campaign or your ad gets shown through programmatic in the store and you can actually automatically measure impact.
That is the dream. Programmatic, I would say we're not quite ready yet for in-store programmatic. It is still being the manual ad served through technology, but yeah, we don't need programmatic to be able to deliver what we're doing. We can serve the ads on behalf of the retailer with the walk-based sensors to deliver the insights. People talk about data. There is so much data out there. But the important bit here, Daniel, is understanding the data, the raw data, and put that into insights, the so what. And that's what we're doing with Iceland and their brands. So very exciting.
And the importance of accurate data as well, which sometimes people forget about, right?
Yeah.
So
It's got to be accurate. Yeah.
yeah. Another big topic, I think it's sometimes an elephant in the room in retail media, is the big topic around measurement. And I will be fortunate enough to be moderating a panel on the 23rd about measurement. So another reason to come to the event to see me moderating a panel. But guys, help me moderate this. Give me like some expert.
You want us to do the panel for you.
Come on, I'm not an
do the
expert.
work
I'm not
for
an
you.
expert. I just ask the questions. I need help. So give me some context. Where are we now in terms of measurement? Because that's like a typical. I don't know if it's a complaint of the brand or it's a complaint as an excuse to not invest more, and that the measurement is like everybody does their own thing. It's hard to really measure retail media investment. How do you see it, Tijmen?
It's a yes and a no. It's a short answer.
And a
No, yeah,
maybe.
yeah, and a maybe. No, I think it really gets the investment and attention that it deserves. The measurement, both what we see happening in the US and in Europe. You have great companies that have privacy-safe measurement technologies, like company like Walkbase, that really go beyond the play counts. I think what really helps is that IAB is working on the measurement standards both in the US and here in Europe. So that really drives the ecosystem moving forward. But what is really interesting to see, and I think that says a lot, is that um, more and more retailers, they start with thinking about measurement before they roll out their in-store retail media network. So actually last week we had a call with a big do-it-yourself chain, uh, and they are launching their RFP, their in-store RFP, and we really emphasized it, and they're gonna do it. It's like you start first with measuring what's happening in our stores. How are people moving around, right? What are the aisles that we need to place? The displays, the screens, the TVs. How many of them? So it's more by default, right? To start with measurement, then let's start. Let's all the hardware, the software in, and then later we see the impact. So I think it's going into the right direction.
Yeah, I think standardisation is huge as well when it comes to measurements because there is a lot of measurement already out there. We know with online, it's been measured for years, and you've got a really good understanding of who was on your website, where did they shop, what did they buy. And as we've just mentioned, it is getting better for in-store because there's technology out there that allows you to have that capability, but retailers have got to embrace it. But I do think it's difficult for the brands because if I'm a brand and I've ran a campaign across multiple retailers, I know all my measurements and my data and my reports will come back and they're not consistent. And I think that's a massive challenge for the industry. So it's that standardisation piece that is needed. So the IAB, we know, and other bodies are working on it, but it's a massive challenge that they're having to deal with.
No, I'm looking forward to it because actually there'll be Mary Claire Parfit from the IAB and Ben Reynolds from
Yeah.
Walk-based STRATACACHE on it. So will be an interesting one.
I would say though,
Speaking,
Daniel, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do
no,
think
no.
I do think retail media measurement, as we've got it today, yes, it still needs work on, but I think it's stronger than some of the traditional media out there to understand your conversion. I think it's stronger than trade for accountability. But yeah, it's weaker when it comes to global standardization, and it still needs maturing for that upper funnel credibility.
Yeah. Another topic that keeps on coming on, and I mentioned before that it's good to have like brands present because I think that brands have more to say than they're saying. Is about getting marketing spend on retail media and not only trade spend on retail media. How? Because you said before, Alison, actually at the beginning, that you're hearing people saying that's happening, and as you were saying that, I was like, that's not really happening. So we
Yeah.
think the same thing.
Yeah.
So
They say
what's
it's
happening?
happening. They say
Yeah.
it's happening. I'm not seeing it. I think this, Daniel, could be an absolute topic for a podcast on its own. It's huge, huge topic. What I think at the moment, despite all the talk of the media, retail media networks, I do think majority of the retail media investment is still coming from trade budgets. So you've still got your trade marketing budgets, your shopper marketing budgets, and those agreements out of a joint business plan, your JBPs. So I think it is still treated as a measurable version of trade. So with that, you can, you've got your short-term ROI expectations. You've got your conversion-focused KPIs, your tactical campaign cycles, and the annual negotiation pressure. So I do personally think it's still very much trade and shopper-driven. But I do think we'll see more of a brand budget moving into retail media if we can show more of that measurement. And I think where it's probably going to move first will be into off-site retail media and possibly CTV. That's my gut feeling. I don't know, Tijmen, if you've got a different view.
Yeah, how I see it is that I see more and more teams that are better aligned, right? The trade teams and the marketing teams, the retail media teams. You see the companies that have shared targets, right? Shared goals, that are in close contact, that communicate, because things can get rough, right? When it's about money and targets. But where you see the organizations that are, structured in a way that they have their same goals, the same targets. Um, Also, I have seen retail media networks that they split budgets, right, and the revenue that flows in, and that really makes a difference, right? So instead of having your internal competitor, uh, you're working on the same goal. So that really helps. So it's evolving, and I also think it really helps that C-level is more and more evolved on the retailer side, right? You see a lot of retailers reporting in on it, right? If they are publicly listed, they have these huge targets, of course. So they're involved and they push and they, you know, try to make it work internally as well, getting the teams more aligned.
Yeah, I think it would help as well if if it comes from that C-suite, isn't it? If it trickles down, and I think if it came from the CMO, they really should see retail media as a measurable brand channel rather than a conversion channel. I'm trying to put my teeth in when I say that. So yeah, rather than a conversion channel. Um, and that may help see that shift of more brand spend into retail media. So I think it's got to come from the top, hasn't it? Top down. If they're not bought into it, you're not going to get that brand shift.
I think there's a piece of like narrative as well from the retailers themselves, because I think how many times have we heard about successful retail media campaigns, but how many of these have been of like the end of the bottom line is sales increase, right? So
Exactly.
if you're over and over and over referring to all your success stories as sales increase, you are conferring that this is a conversion thing, a performance
Conversion.
play,
Yeah.
right?
So you're contradicting yourselves, aren't you? You're saying you want more brand budgets. So you might get some investment from brand, but then after the campaign, you're basically turning around and you're only measuring it on sales performance. That's not a brand
Yeah.
campaign. So there's a lot of conflict of interest there. So I think at the moment it's a bit of a myth about this brand spend, and I want to be, I don't know, told differently. Maybe we're discussing this in 12 months'
Yeah,
time.
let us know in
Yes.
Dusseldorf. Come to us and challenge us. Alison and
Yes.
I will be there. So challenge us.
Yes.
Tijmen, you mentioned that you were excited about the keynotes around AI. Why do you have people speaking about AI in an in-store retail media event?
Yeah. So the impact of AI on the retail media, I mean, it's so many different um, points of view and the ways you can look at it. I think the to be honest, the impact on retail media online will be much bigger, right? You already see that happening with the big retailers having their agentic AI and support, helping the customer go to the website in their funnel. When it comes to in-store retail media, where still the majority of purchases are being made, I think what you can use AI for is creative. I think creative is great if you can put some AI in there, optimize, crunching that data, optimize. So it's personalization. I think it's great for that specifically.
Yeah. No, it will be very interesting because as we're talking about things, you realize that these are not every panel is a topic, but all these topics are so like deeply interconnected, no? Like that you have to look at things as like a business and not as like silos. So guys, super excited about this event. As I mentioned, the link is in the show notes. I do encourage you to join us. I'll also leave links to Alison's and Tijmen's LinkedIn. Also to mine this time. I don't normally do because I assume people know who I am, but maybe they don't. So if you want to ask me as like an independent source if the event is worth it and why it's worth it, just reach out to me. So this was great. Look forward to seeing you guys there.
Thank you, Daniel. Really enjoyed it. Good to catch up. Good to catch up with you, Tijmen.
Yeah, great to see you both, and thank you, Daniel. And looking forward to see you the 23rd in Dusseldorf.
Yes, absolutely.
Likewise, nice to have you both again, Alison again and Tijmen for the first time. And thanks to all our audience for tuning in. We'll see you maybe in Dusseldorf, and in any case, in the next episode of the FMCG guys. Have a great one.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from Dwyer Partners SL, doing business as the FMCG guys, or the individual author, host, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by Dwyer Partners SL. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Dwyer Partners SL expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we presented in this podcast.